This is Gridiron Gore, where football collides with fear.
Welcome to Gridiron Gore, the podcast where helmets meet haunted houses, and the only thing more terrifying than a 2-minute drill is a cursed quarterback.
That's right. I'm Davon, your resident football nerd and diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
And I'm Paige, your horror queen raised on slashers, screamers, and all things supernatural. And this is Gridiron Gore. This is episode 2, The Holdout Hauntings. In today's episode, we're diving into the sinister world of holdouts, hold-ins, suspensions, and preseason injuries. Who's missing and why? It's like a football version of the Blair Witch Project.
Then we connect all that drama to one of horror's most relevant tales of ghosting and rebellion.
A chilling classic that fits this week's NFL chaos. And as always, we'll wrap things up with some dark fantasy. Fantasy football, that is.
All right, y'all. We're officially heading into week 2 of the preseason. And if week 1 was any sign, things are already heating up like summer at Camp Crystal Lake.
That's right. While some players are busy ghosting practices or mysteriously nursing vague injuries, a few rookies made it crystal clear they're not here to ride the bench.
And leading the charge, the University of Colorado's finest. Coach Prime, a.k.a. Shedeur Sanders, draft class hit the field like a horror sequel. Louder, bolder, and totally unbothered by the spotlight.
We're talking Shedeur, Travis, Shiloh, Xavier, LeJounte, and Jimmy, all showing flashes of brilliance and possibly carving out roles faster than a slasher in Act 1.
So before we dive into the disappearing acts, the holdouts, the hold-ins, surprise suspensions, and injury lists, let's start with a bright spot.
A shining, terrifyingly talented black and gold highlight reel. It's time to break down the Buffs' breakout debuts.
All right, so this week, we've seen the first week of preseason. A lot of the teams were able to kind of showcase what they had available and what they were capable of doing. We're going to start with Travis Hunter, our prime Colorado Buffalo. Again, number 2 overall pick of this past year's NFL draft to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Travis Hunter was able to showcase, not for long. He didn't get a lot of play time in the first preseason game, and that's expected. You want to try to avoid injuries, but he was able to play both sides of the ball as he anticipates doing this entire season.
So I got a question. Sorry to cut you off so quickly. I mean, tonight we're talking about the highlight reel of alumni from University of Colorado. And everyone was excited to see Travis play both sides of the ball. But don't you kind of feel like his game was pretty pedestrian this past week?
Let's say yes, right? So obviously, as a top prospect defensive player, DB specifically, you can only be highlighted as much as people target you, right? I don't think in this particular first preseason week that they really tried him as a cornerback. And offensively, I think they really just wanted to, sprinkle him out there. They didn't want to make him the highlight of the offense, just a featured piece.
But was he a feature piece? I mean, he had 10 snaps for only 2, or out of 10 snaps, he only had 2 receptions for 9 yards. I mean, this is preseason where rookies are supposed to be like fighting for a spot, highlighting and showcasing what they got.
Do we honestly think that Travis is fighting for a spot? What I would say in regards to those 10 snaps, 2 receptions, 1, how many of those plays were actually pass plays? 2, how many of those were plays where he was the primary target of the play? Let's say if it was 5 pass plays, how many of those plays were designated for him? I'm not sure if Brian Thomas, who was their leading receiver last year, if he played in this preseason game, but I would have wondered like how in those plays was it just to see how those two fit together in the offensive unit as a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, or just maybe they were just trying to understand how that dynamic of those two would be as offensive threats.
So I'm going to throw some more stats. I cannot talk today. I'm going to throw at you some more stats. So on defense, out of 8 snaps he played. So I guess for people that may not have been paying attention, he played, was it like the first half of the first quarter he did offense, and then he came back in the second half or second quarter and played defense. So on the defensive end of the ball, out of 8 total snaps at cornerback, he had 1 missed tackle. He didn't have any solo tackles. His form in that missed tackle was not proper form, especially for the pros. It was something that you could get away with in college or a lower competition. And so also he had to take breaks both on both sides of the ball. He had to take breaks and come out for water. And that's something that we haven't seen from Travis watching him at Colorado, where he was playing the whole game.
I think with that, obviously as a DB and as a corner, you're not expected to be the greatest tackler. So I understand the missed tackle. Obviously, you don't want your starters missing tackles, especially on the edge at a cornerback role, because usually, like if you miss that tackle at the corner, it's usually going to be a big play. That's like usually the last man before like the safety before it breaks to a big play. The water breaks or requesting the need for it. Was it in Jacksonville this first game?
Yeah. So that was part of people's critiques is that he needed breaks, and playing both sides of the ball is a rare thing. Not to say that he's not a great athlete, but right. Like it's a different game than college. And is it really sustainable? Well,
I think also it's August, right? So once it does hit regular football season and in September, the temperatures do drop. I feel as though some of the best conditioned athletes also have this sort of breakdown with those Florida temperatures when they're in that heat for extended period of time.
But his home team is Florida.
I get it. I mean, these things happen. He might have got too warmed up and kind of like drained his fluids then. Pause. That sounds kind of crazy. But I don't think this is something that we should be concerned about.
So you think it's sustainable that he's going to be able to play both sides of the ball, significant amount of playing time?
Significant, no. I think he can play both sides of the ball. I don't know how much of he'll be able to play both. I feel as though if the team is struggling, he'll be playing more offensive reps. And I think he'll regularly play his regular defensive reps. But they said right now he's primarily the receiver, right?
I would say he's listed as
receiver. I think they'll play him depending on how, one, the matchup is going into the week that they're playing, 2, how bad they're being, I guess, played against in live time in the game. So him being able to play both, I think they may just make those game time decisions.
All right. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to rush through some of these others because I think one player deserves the talking time, even though everyone's been talking about him all week. But just moving forward quickly, LeJontay Wester, he was a 6th-round pick, wide receiver out of Baltimore Ravens. He had a 104-yard return that resulted in a touchdown in the Ravens' opening preseason game. He also had 2 passes for 41 yards. One pass was for 30 yards. So he was kind of doing his thing today. 6th-round pick, making touchdowns, getting yards.
Yeah, I think being a great kick returner is very beneficial to the game plan, how you can execute, and how you can turn the game around. The Ravens, I feel like, have always been able to find great special team players. They had Jacoby Jones, rest in peace to him. They've had something Jackson back in the day. He was really good special teams guy. But with the new special team rules, being able to get better field position will definitely benefit the Ravens. I hate to say that because I'm a Steelers fan, but you know.
Yeah. So then also Xavier Weaver, who's an undrafted free agent, wide receiver, playing for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had 2 catches in their opening game for 14 yards, 1 touchdown. He may be a potential fantasy sleeper. We'll talk about that later. Our boy Shiloh, also at Tampa Bay as safety, undrafted free agent rookie. He's currently listed as a 4th string, so he's still fighting for a roster spot, unlike maybe his brother and Travis. But he also was the only player on the team to get a quarterback hit, and he also was able to rack up a stat for an additional solo tackle. So he's doing his thing on defense.
And he gave his mama his jersey.
Because his dad said, no, thank you.
Right.
Okay, so now the star of the moment, who I feel like we all were on pins and needles as if this was our brother, cousin, son, nephew, Mr. Shedeur, who had a great opening game on Friday night with the Cleveland Browns. He was 14 of 23 of completions. He threw 138 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 rushing yards for 4 carries. And what's great is 0 interceptions.
Yeah, that was, I think that was probably the most watched preseason game
for sure.
For week 1, because we know how the NFL did Shedeur dirty, not drafting him when he was projected, not valuing the talent that he is and what he can possibly bring and to a program, a franchise, and possibly help that franchise make it to and win Super Bowls. Given his opportunity Friday, he showed them exactly who he was, what he's been doing his entire college career, and what he can do on this NFL level. People are going to say, oh, it was preseason. A lot of people didn't play their starters. So what? These are still NFL players. It's not easy making even a camp roster for an NFL team. So to say that is just showing how much you hating for real. So shout out to Shedeur, balling out. I believe he'll be getting the start again this week against the Eagles, which would be a little bit more tougher competition. Although we don't know if they're starting any starters, but we'll see how he pans out and we're rooting for him.
Do you think he has now taken the 3rd spot on the roster and not 4th string?
I would put him, he should have been 2nd just coming out, but I think it definitely jumps him past Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, you know how I feel about Kenny Pickett. I don't repeat what I said in episode 1. I don't think he should be on a starting quarterback for any team in the NFL, let alone a backup. But that's just my hatred to him. Let me not say I don't hate anyone. I dislike him a lot. What he did to the Pittsburgh franchise.
Woof.
He set us back. He set us back a lot. Let me just say that.
And now you have 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, well, we won't have him for long, so we just gotta make do with what we got.
All right. Well, shout out to all of the University of Colorado alum that's now in the NFL. You guys were doing your thing last week, and we are very excited to see what's in store for week 2.
Yes, Boulder's best didn't come to play; they came to scare. If week 1's any indication, these Buffs might just be the preseason's most haunted and hottest rookies.
All right, so before we start dissecting bodies on the screen, let's take a scalpel to the field because things are already looking like the start of a horror film.
Yeah, like the part where everyone's smiling, the sun's shining, and no one knows they're about to get cut in the woods.
Exactly. We've got players missing, teams in denial, Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones, and fans whispering in hushed tones, where is he? Is he coming back? It's giving Paranormal Activity meets Hard Knocks.
And trust me, these situations are not just preseason drama. Holdouts, hold-ins, and surprise suspensions, they're the plot twists that derail real teams and your fantasy team, which is probably the most important if you have ever played fantasy football before the season even starts.
So light your ritual candles, keep your roster close, don't look behind you, because it's time to jump into Holdouts and Hold-ins, the haunting. All right. I don't even know who I want to talk about first because it's been so much drama. So I'm going to skip the Cowboys because they get a lot of airtime, but we have a lot to dissect with Micah and Jerry. So let's first talk about a person who I think deserves more attention than he's getting, Trey Hendrickson.
Yes, let's talk about Trey Hendrickson. So for those of you that don't know who Trey Hendrickson is, he's the defensive end for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's been one of the league's best pass rushers in the last 4 or 5 years, up there with Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Max Crosby. He has been his stats for 2024, 33 total solo tackles, 17.5 sacks, which led to NFL, and he's not getting paid yet. What do you think is halting them on paying Trey Hendrickson?
From my understanding of things, it's really ownership. They're cheap and they don't want to pay the guy. Joe was acting as GM in the offseason and he fought for his boys on the offensive line, but what good is being able to get in a shootout with folks if you don't have a defense that can keep you in the game? And I think at their preseason game, I can't remember who they played this past week, but it showed that the defense, which was already shady and shaky last season, they're even worse without Trey, and they're not going to win.
Maybe Joe wants to be where he's trailing all the time so he can bump his stats. And maybe he purposely doesn't want them to have a defense so that he's on the field more.
But don't you want to go back to the Super Bowl?
You do. I mean, he got paid, so I don't think he's necessarily chasing another bag, which obviously he will get whenever that time comes again. But I think those contracts between him, Chase, and T. Higgins is very expensive. They really haven't done anything to bring in any existing talent in the NFL. They did sign the rookie defensive end, but who is this defensive end going to learn from if the leader on the defense doesn't feel any security, right? You need that sort of defensive leadership to, at least if you're a bad defense, to kind of keep your defense together until you're able to get it together. So I think this is a terrible move by the Bengals. Happy for me as a Steelers fan because we don't got to worry about Trey Hendrickson with coming off the edge to hit a 42-year-old quarterback. But, this is a deal that should have been done before we even got out of camp.
So it sounds like you think that they're not going to reach a deal for a contract extension.
I don't think they are. I mean, even Joe Burrow has, made his public statement saying they need to pay Trey Hendrickson. They haven't done it yet. I haven't heard any.
You had the number one leader in sacks. And you can't figure out a deal?
That's the one that should have requested a trade. He rightfully earns that money because he led this year. He was top 3 last year and probably top 3 in the year before. So he's been in the mix every year. And you lost a leader, Sam Hubbard, who was the opposite defense end, retired last year. So now you're losing more of that leadership, and you're not even securing your best defensive player onto the roster. That's one person I would have paid. I think I would have paid him before I paid T. Higgins. Me personally. As
much as T. Higgins blessed me in fantasy last year, I'm with you 200%. I feel like offense brings butts to the seats, but defense wins games. You need defense to win championships, to win Super Bowls. And so, Trey, I stand in solidarity with you, brother. You need more airtime because we're fighting for you. Justice for Trey.
All right, let's switch up to another player, a younger player, James Cook from the Buffalo Bills. Running back. He is their starting running back. He tied last year with rushing touchdowns with 16. He is now requesting a contract extension. What are your thoughts? I have a bunch, but I want to kind of hear yours first. Shoot.
I don't know. I mean, running backs, their pay is not the same compared to other positions in the league. And I know Saquon's monster year last year, I think, like, hopefully extended the market for running backs. But with James, it seems like Josh, as great as he is, Josh has been good since Stefon Diggs has left at like distributing the ball all over the field. And I think from the coaching perspective, I think they would rather be in a position of running back by committee, wide receiver by the committee, because Josh has flourished better when he doesn't have the pressure of giving just one person the ball and he's spreading the love. So why pay James that when you can get cheaper talent and you're just riding off the back of Superman?
True. I agree with your points there. I think James Cook took advantage of the opportunities that he was given last year. I think, in previous years, Josh Allen would have taken most of those touchdowns that he had. So I think that number is slightly inflated than what I would normally expect from James Cook, especially with him splitting the backfield with two other running backs, possibly even three. I think they might have had a fourth person rotating in there. And like you said, running backs, though they don't have a long lifespan in the NFL. Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey, they're kind of the exceptions, although McCaffrey has been battling injuries. Really just Derrick Henry. He's been healthy throughout his. So, yeah, I can see why the Bills are kind of hesitant on extending James Cook on his rookie contract.
So, from sources tell me, James is asking between 11 to 12.5 million. He also started practicing today after he's been kind of a short-lived holdout because he was requesting all of this August 3rd, and now he's back to practice.
I kind of wanted to get into that. I hate to cut you off, but this is probably one of the only years where we've had more hold-ins than holdouts. Everyone ain't standing on business.
No, I respect that. A holdout is costing me money every day. I'm going to hold in because you have to pay me, and I'm not going to practice.
Nah, I'm holding out.
So you're going to pay the fine every day when you could.
When you hold in, I feel like they have the upper hand on you. Like, oh, he's here. He's here. We expect him to play, and then they're going to use that against him because.
But if I'm not dressed. I'm not practicing, I'm not taking any reps.
I guess. I don't know. I just know like in the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, people was holding out and they was taking the fine. And you know what? They were getting paid. Le'Veon got a big contract and he's the one that really messed it up for running backs because he held out. They paid him. I think the Jets paid him money the next year or maybe the same year and he kind of stunk it up. So.
Well, let's talk about someone who I think is on the verge of being a true holdout, not a hold-in, Terry McLaurin. He has been the face of the Commanders. I almost called them their old name. He has been the face of the Commanders since he was drafted. He's entering the final year of his contract. By next year, he'll be in free agency. He held the Commanders down when they were a losing team. And last year, he finally got a quarterback to help him shine even brighter as they made it all the way to the NFC Championship. And yet, despite him being Bonnie and Clyde, or being Bonnie for the Commanders, they're not being Clyde. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we have to as much as we give Jaden Daniels credit for how well he did last year, we also got to credit Terry McLaurin to be a significant part of Jaden Daniels' success, right? So you think a majority, more than half of Jaden Daniels' passing touchdowns went to Terry McLaurin on passes that weren't always perfect. Terry McLaurin gets a lot of credit for his route running abilities and his ability to is it contort? Is that the right word? Like when you contort your body and make aerobatic catches. So he makes sort of really difficult catches look easy, and he's done it on numerous occasions. So I agree. I think Terry McLaurin has paid his dues as a Washington.
Commander.
I want to say Redskins.
Me too.
We know him as the Redskins. They're commanders.
If you were born in the 90s and earlier.
People want them to go back. I want them to go back as well. That's why I know them as. But yeah, he got 1,000-yard receiver with Sam Howell playing quarterback. And I don't think Sam Howell's on a roster right now. For those that don't know, he was a quarterback from North Carolina. I don't know if Sam Howell's on a roster right now. And he had 1,000 yards receiver with him. Like, come on. This game draws in so much money, and the fact that we even got to get to these negotiations where they're not trying to pay these top players. What is he, 28, 29? A 3-year contract for $22 million. That's not going to kill you. You got a lot of young people on that. I
would say, especially you have your quarterback still on a rookie deal, so you have
you got the time.
More cap space.
You shouldn't have paid Debo. I don't know.
I was just about to bring that up. Why would they spend that money
on someone that's not even going to play the full season?
He's on his way out.
What, he had 1 touchdown last year, 2 touchdowns?
He was woof. If someone who had him on their fantasy team last year, he was a stinker that should have just spent the whole time on my bench.
I know our intro, you talk about cursed quarterback. We talk about cursed Debo Sanders.
All right. Scary Terry, I think the world is on your side. Media is on your side. And everyone is scratching their head at Washington right now because it just doesn't make any sense why they haven't taken care of you yet.
Listen, if Terry McLaurin's not playing, Jaden Daniels is going to have a huge setback. And, once a quarterback like that has a setback, it's going to be hard to get them back on pace. So you want to keep them at that high as long as you can. And, to try to disrupt that immediately after that quarterback has success his rookie year, I just don't want him to have. I don't want Jaden Daniels to have the CJ Stroud drop off. And no shade to CJ, he had a lot of injuries at his wide receiver spot, but them not paying the number 1 receiver is going to put them in even a worse spot than an injury at this point.
So speaking of quarterbacks that are setbacks and disruptive, let's move on to your Pittsburgh Steelers and a captain, a leader on the team right now that has decided, well, I guess maybe for some time now, but it's now getting some real attention about his holdout, Cam Hayward.
Listen, I get it, but I don't get it. Cam Hayward, you want to...
They said, I saw how you paid TJ.
TJ is
Pay me.
like 6 years younger than Cam. Cam is like 35 years old. Like, those positions don't play well at that age. Like, that's your pass. First, you pass rushing, and then you got to run stop. That's a lot on the body for someone that age. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's not in shape for or whatnot, but I can see why someone doesn't want to pay a 35-year-old D tackle crazy money for an extension. Like, we're going to take care of you. This is something that we could discuss at the end of the year. Like, you're still under contract. I get it, but come on.
I think maybe this is really a quiet protest about Aaron Rodgers, because if you remember months and months ago, when it was really becoming real that the Steelers were interested in Aaron Rodgers and Aaron was coming to do visits or was just in conversation with the coach and the GM, Cam was asked about it on a podcast, and he didn't have like the nicest of things to say. and basically was saying to Aaron, or basically said, like, I don't care who the quarterback is. Like, we need a quarterback, but you need to get in where you fit in, and this ain't about you.
Listen, before I go on that part, one, my bad on the age. He's 36 years old. And two, the Steelers organization, he should be extremely thankful because they've had his brother on the roster.
I was going to bring up this brother,
for
too.
like 4 years, and we could have had a better person. And there's no way he should be on this roster after camp because we have too many tight ends. We don't need a fourth tight end, to be honest. And regarding the quarterback situation, I don't necessarily know. I think he just wants that final payday before he call it quits. But again, you're 36 years old. Let me check his birthday. He just turned 36 in May. So let's say
he'll be 36 all season long.
But he wants an extension, so he's trying to play into 37, possibly 38. At D tackle. That's not good for him. I don't think that's good.
He said, if you got it, you got it.
I don't think he got I love Cam Hayward, but come on, my boy. See how this year goes. Because let's say they give you this contract extension, and at the end of the year, I think I was going to shut it down. What was all this for then? Like, figure that out at the end. You know what I mean? Like, they'll give you're going to get a contract at the end of the year. And you've had big contracts already. I don't understand the need for doing this, which can cause distractions amongst the team when we need the leadership, especially with offense having a new quarterback or a leader on the offense. We got to have the stability on the defense, and this is not something you do to create a sense of security, like from a defensive front. Defense is always like our strong side, and this is scaring me because you're doing this now. You're doing this now. You had all season. You had when you were 35 to Then I think I want to get my contract negotiations going now. Like, why are you doing it right now? I don't know. 36.
Well, speaking of why are we doing this right now? We had all off season to work something out. Let's move on to the stars of the hour. They suck up all the time and attention on the media, but this is exactly what the general manager / owner wants. Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. This has been an ongoing saga since honestly, I think since the beginning of last season, where Micah first put out his intention that he wants to stay with Dallas. He wants to be a Cowboys. Let's go and get this extension done early so it's not a distraction. And yet here we are going into week 2 of preseason. He is not dressed. He has not practiced. He has not taken any reps. He has now put it out in the public on Twitter that I want to trade. I want to get out of here. What do you think about Micah and Jerry Jones?
Well, I think this is just Jerry Jones's formula. No publicity is bad publicity with him. As long as he's in the news, his team is relevant. And I think it's someone every year. You had CD last year. You had Dak.
And Dak last year.
Last year also. It's the theatrics with the Cowboys. They wanna keep themselves relevant. Me personally,
is it they want to keep themselves relevant or Jerry?
Well, you know it's Jerry. Jerry and his brother or his son. Stephen. I think they wouldn't have been able to extend him back then. I don't. 2,
but you can though, because doesn't that impacts the cap? The earlier that you extend the player, the more money that you save. And you don't take a hit on the cap.
I get that, but
he runs up on the cap all the time because he signs players late.
Yeah,
thus having to pay them more money.
Hey, if he got the money, he want to pay him like that. Let him pay him like that. But I think 2 years ago there was someone else that was also in the need of a contract that I think prioritized it. I think for.
But I mean, he was willing to wait, and then once all the other stars got paid,
he was
like, okay, let's get this done. Jerry wasn't feeling it. They had talks back in like April or March earlier this year, talking about like just locker room and leadership things. They casually talk about contract negotiations. And then Micah's like, sure, let me pull in my agent and loop him into the conversation. And that's when Jerry flipped a script. Doesn't want agents involved, which I don't like. Why wouldn't you not? Wants things to be done like they were back in the 80s and the 90s and just handing things, closing business deals off a handshake. And he's just, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't see. I think they might end up letting him go. I think
Jerry doesn't like to give her the stars, though.
I know, but I think what Parsons does with the podcast, that's a distraction, and that's taking attention away from Jerry, because Jerry wants all the spotlight. He doesn't want to share with anyone.
Sure.
And then when you have someone doing a podcast like that, saying things without knowing that you're saying something fucks up the brand of that organization. Because he said a few times like shit that could be used harmful against the Cowboys.
But do you think Jerry cares, or that's fodder for the sports media folks to talk about Monday morning during the week?
Yeah.
Is things that Micah said.
Yeah, but Micah,
because we're talking about the Cowboys.
Micah also hasn't been as productive as some of these other players that are getting contracts, though.
Well, hold on. Micah was Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2021. First Team All-Pro 2021-22. Second Team All-Pro 23. He's the first player in history to finish top 3 in AP Defensive Player of the Year for the first 3 seasons of his career. He is what some people say a generational talent. He's like the centerpiece of their defense.
Hey, he ain't as productive as Trey Hendrickson. He ain't doing trade numbers. That's all I know. And last year, he definitely had an off year. So it's not what you've done, it's what have you done for me lately. And lately,
he's one of the best. Was he edge rusher in our conference?
He is an edge rusher in the conference. Probably. Well, let me think between the teams. Washington doesn't really have a good edge rusher. It's more so good interiors in the NFC East. He'd be like top 10 edge rushers, but not where those first 3 years that level. So it might have hurt him not trying to get that deal done 2 years ago when he was first team All-Pro. That's just me personally. I don't want to stay on this one too long because I don't want to give the Cowboys so much attention. I don't want to give Jerry Jones so much attention. Yeah, let's just move on from that. So outside of the holdouts, there are some injuries that have also been occurring throughout preseason and camps. A lot of season-changing injuries that may impact some franchises and how they kind of play and go out the year. One of the probably most talked about one right now would be Matthew Stafford, the starting quarterback for the Rams. So he's been dealing with a back injury for the past throughout camp and preseason.
He's been dealing with that back injury for a while. They've just been keeping it quiet and on the low for as long as they can.
People, they need to give it like he's another quarterback or another player that's up there in age, and it's okay.
But he did well last season. Like they almost beat us in what was that like? I guess would you call that the semifinals or the quarterfinals for our division?
Divisional.
That was an intense game.
So
he was running me numbers in
so when the hell did he mess his
fantasy.
Back up?
I guess afterwards. It's a ruptured disc.
So he
hasn't done anything.
So
they started into training camp with him not doing anything. So this is an injury.
He got hurt not even doing football things. See, or
it was already an injury that has continued to get aggravated and worse over time.
You had the whole off season to get this addressed.
Apparently he was trying to.
I don't know.
They're being very quiet about but we're still I think the point is we're still in the dark about full clarity on what this injury is. They're not trying to tell us anything other than he's going to come back. He's going to come back.
I don't know. It just sounds sketchy. And I know one thing, if he's not playing, that Rams team doesn't really have a chance.
No.
Although Sean McVay is a very good coach, without Matthew Stafford, they're not making the playoffs. Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup. They're not going to do it with him.
So would you be drafting any of his receivers?
If he's not, it's kind of hard to draft.
Well, I'm saying I think we're likely probably not going to get an answer before all fantasy drafts have to come due about his playing time. So do you pick anybody up?
I mean, I usually do my drafts a day, 2 days, 3 days before regular season starts. I don't know how people can draft while preseason's still going on, camp's still going on. I do mine's later. So when I'm drafted, I know who's available, who's playing, who's anticipated to start for opening week. So if you are in fantasy, I suggest you also wait to do your draft until at least preseason over, at least the last week of August, first week of September before that Thursday night game. If he's not playing, I would get Puka late. I wouldn't. There's another receiver that I know starting with a starting quarterback. I'm gonna pick him over Puka, but if he's there dropping, I'm gonna pick him up. I'm not gonna let him keep dropping. That's stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I also just want to give a moment of silence to the Eagles guard, Landon Dickerson. I missed it, but he was carted off from the practice field on Sunday. He has a meniscus injury. The hope is that it's going to be a minor surgery for repair and that he'll be back in a few weeks. But he was an integral part of our O-line. He was doing a lot of blocking for Saquon. So hopefully that's just, what is it called? Where they just do a shave of the meniscus? Where they cut.
Not a scope. Is it a scope?
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying I hope it's that. Yeah, because that recovery is much faster than a full repair.
Yeah, wishing the best for Landon, but if he does see significant time down, that impacts the Eagles a lot and definitely impacts the running game with Saquon, the passing game with Jalen. Sometimes when that pressure hits him, he just kind of takes in the sack versus trying to make something happen, which can sometimes be the smarter play, just to take the sack versus forcing a bad play. So if he's out, they would have to put in a younger guy that may interrupt how that offense is run.
Yeah. And just for the rest, there's so many injuries this preseason. I don't know what's going on. It seems like every day there's an update from Adam Schefter about someone being a season-ending injury or folks are concerned. So for everyone else that's injured, for example, Isaiah Likely, Alexander Madison, get better, guys. Jordan, figure it out. I wanna be a Jordan Love fan. Figure it out. Let's get healthy, sir.
Yeah, that happened in the preseason games, the first week. So I'm expecting that he won't be playing any more preseason games and just will hold off until week 1.
Yeah. All right. Now on to the juicy. Let's talk suspensions.
Some bad characters over here, I tell you that.
Bad characters, and also a sign of if you have money, the criminal legal system can be your friend. Speaking of which, Rashid Rice, we still don't know how long the suspension is going to be. It's anticipated that's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. But I got to put on my lawyer hat for a second because I'm just astounded at what this man's sentence is. So he was involved in a multi-car crash. He was going over 100 miles per hour, so this is reckless driving. Folks were injured, serious physical injury, and he pled guilty to 2 counts of third-degree felony collision involving serious bodily injury. And he was sentenced to 5 years probation, 30 days that must be spent in jail. And he can serve those 30 days throughout his 5-year probation. And it is a deferred sentence, meaning he successfully completes his probation. He's able to get the charges dismissed. And there's no conviction on his record. So, for one, I will just speak in Delaware because every state has their own specific criminal code and sentencing. But 5 years probation, wild. Wild, insane. That only happens here if it was like a manslaughter case conviction, and somehow they only got like a little bit of jail time, and so they're going to be on probation for forever. Or like it's a kid murder client that I don't even know. Like, it's so multi-year probations, they happen, but they don't happen like that here. But also to serve his 30 days of jail time over a 5-year period, that does not happen for normal people. Like, that is not a real thing. I mean, there's such things as like serving part of your violation of probation sentence. Like on the weekends, you have to check in to what's called a level 4 facility, like a work release program where you would either go spend the weekend in jail for a little bit, or you would spend your week, like the work week, in jail, and then you could go home on weekends. But never have I seen 30 days served over a 5-year probation sentence. And then to be able to get his felony charges conviction just dismissed off his record. That does not happen. You can't get felony charges just deferred sentence for a felony charge in Delaware. Like, that happens for some misdemeanor cases, but not felony where there was serious bodily injury for reckless driving. I don't know.
Can you tell someone's passionate over here about the law? But yeah, I agree. And he also, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but he also fled the scene of the crime after it happened.
No, see, like that would be an aggravating factor for sentencing purposes, for having a depraved heart of not caring about the harm that you cause to others. And I mean, like, this is no shade to Rashid Rice. It's just, folks, we don't make that kind of money. We are not that kind of famous. Don't think that these sentences that are getting passed down to some of these great athletes are going to apply or happen to you. Because, baby, let me tell you, that's never going to happen. Never going to be the case.
Yeah. Pretty wild case. I remember when it happened because it was on social media and someone recorded them leaving the scene of the crime. He later turned himself in, but he did ultimately left the scene. But yeah, the ruling on his suspension hasn't been passed down yet. This is someone that would be on the hold off on for fantasy purposes, but we'll get to that later. We'll go on to our next suspended player, Justin Tucker.
Woof.
Not even sure if he's on the Ravens anymore, but he does have a 10-game suspension for doing Deshaun Watson-like things. I'm not too familiar with the extent of what he either settled or got charged with, but it was,
I don't know. I thought it's still pending.
It could be still pending, but it's like the sexual misconduct with massage therapists.
Yep.
These guys are these massage therapists. I don't know.
Well, what parlors are they going to?
They going to the Rush Hour 2 parlor. That's what they going. Heaven on earth. That's what heaven on earth. Heaven on earth.
My only issue is I feel like this is very quiet.
Yeah.
His misconduct and the investigation and what's happening.
Deshaun Watson's was loud.
Exactly.
Very
point
loud.
in case. But 10 games is woof. That's more than half the season, just about half the season. I think he would come back at the end of November. Yeah.
And you can tell that it was hurting him because Justin Tucker, outside of his misconduct, is probably one of the better kickers in NFL history. And like last year, he had like a terrible season.
Because he knew it was coming.
Yeah, he knew that law was coming down on him. All right, so let's go on to Jordan Addison of Minnesota Vikings. He has a 3-game suspension for violating substance abuse policy. He did plead no contest to
a lesser included offense of a DUI stop. So he's not admitting. So no contest means I'm not admitting guilt, but I'm acknowledging that the state has enough evidence to prove a charge. And it looks like it's a charge that's not DUI, but probably something related to that. So in Delaware, it would be like a reckless driving, alcohol related kind of charge.
Got it. All right. Well, again, just be cautious for fantasy.
Well, I was going to ask, 3-game suspension, are you still going to draft him?
His stock will drop depending on who you're in the league with. Most of us, or most fantasy apps, you don't have any designated roster spot for those that are suspended. So if you do get him, he will take up a roster spot. So you just want to be very cautious on where you actually end up drafting him. I wouldn't say reach for him because, again, you won't be able to use him for 3 weeks. And also their quarterback is J.J. McCarthy. So just be cautious on that.
He didn't play well this first game, right?
J.J.?
Yeah.
I don't know if he played. No, they didn't play him, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Caleb. No, Caleb didn't play, but he's still not doing
Caleb isn't doing well. Yeah.
And then I don't even know. I feel like there's not enough information out, but on Quinshon Judkins.
Yes.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, rookie running back on Cleveland Browns, drafted from The Ohio State. He was arrested in July for domestic battery charge. I believe he hit a young woman.
Was it his girlfriend?
I think it was his girlfriend. We've seen similar cases like this in the NFL, which usually leads to suspension. So if you think back to Kareem Hunt, he was at the top of his limelight with the Chiefs. They released him when that video came out when he got charged. Ray Rice, another top NFL running back that got caught on camera doing, unfortunate things. But yeah, I think he's going to be suspended for some time. Like, they don't tolerate that. I'm not sure if this is on camera, but knowing that he's had the domestic situation, I think they're going to, this rookie probably won't see this year.
And you know what's wild? The Browns aren't looking to get rid of him. He hasn't signed a contract yet, which he's the only draftee, I guess is the right word, that has not signed a rookie contract yet. And the reason why he hasn't signed the contract is because of these pending legal charges. Yeah. But the owner, I'm like blanking on his name of the Browns, he's like, it's frustrating that they haven't, like, the criminal side hasn't come through yet.
Is it Orsay? Jim Orsay?
No.
I mean, that's Colts. You're right. Yeah.
But they are looking to sign him. And the first thing that I thought of was that horrid deal, that like nightmare of a deal that they're on. Jimmy Haslam, yeah. The deal that they did to get Deshaun Watson with all of his legal troubles, and now you don't want to part from. And listen, you're innocent until proven guilty, but a young man that is facing legal charges involving domestic violence, they're like, well, we need to get this figured out so we can get him signed and with us for life as a franchise player.
Well, one thing we can say about the Browns, they're consistent. If anyone's going to have the longest yard roster, it's going to be the Browns.
That's a good one. Okay, so let's shift from the field to the film reel, my favorite part. This week's NFL headlines are packed with eerie absences and unsettling silence. So we're matching that energy with psychological thrillers that's sharp, dark, and full of power plays.
All right, hit me. What movie are we comparing to this week's football chaos? And there's a lot of chaos.
So this week's horror mirror is Gone Girl. One of my faves. One of my absolute faves. David Fincher's razor-edge thriller where a woman vanishes without a trace and leaves everyone scrambling to figure out what really happened.
This is an interesting take, especially with Gone Girl as a horror. It's more of the thriller side. So holdouts, I guess you compare, are like the Amy Dunes of the NFL.
Exactly. Strategic disappearance, total narrative control, and while everyone points fingers and builds their own version of the story, who's the missing party? They're quietly pulling the strings, which is why Gone Girl is a perfect match for this week. It's about control, perception, and the haunting power of being absent at the right time. Just like a veteran player watching camp from the comfort of their mansion, Cam Hayward. Like what I did there?
I don't like what you did there because you compared it to my team, but I get you. I hear you, and I hear you.
All right. So I don't think I need to talk about the plot or summary of Gone Girl because it's old, and I think it has a lot of pop cultural references that people make. So if you have not seen Gone Girl, that's on you at this point, because it is a classic. It's also loosely based off the Scott Peterson case and Lacey Peterson. I'm sorry to put on my true crime hat, but Scott and Lacey Peterson, they're my Roman Empire. I think about them in that case constantly. But anyway, so just like in Gone Girl, the main character, Amy is manipulating Ben Affleck. I can't think of his name in the movie, but the way that she manipulates.
Nick? Is it Nick?
Yes, Nick. The way that she manipulates Nick, the police, the media. I hate to do it because they don't deserve it, but the first folks that I think of is Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons, and really I think Micah. So I'll say typically players like to publicly ask for a trade as a leverage and manipulation tool, i.e. Myles Garrett, when he was saying that he wanted to leave the Browns and everyone was doing backflips and was so eager to grab him when really it was about getting that big money deal to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. While I think it might have started out like that for Micah, I don't know. I kind of feel like he's at his wit's end and he might actually leave and be traded if he can. None of the players on the Cowboys are interested in this media distraction. They want all of their guys there so they can practice and work and actually make it to a championship game since it's been 30 years. But I feel like Jerry Jones very much likes to use the media.
Gotcha.
For play.
So Jerry Jones is Amy. Who would the husband be? Who would Nick be? Would it be the Cowboys fans?
Micah?
Okay. Getting manipulated, thinking something's one way.
Stressed out. Just trying to get that contract signed. Just trying to find his wife and prove that he did not murder her.
Well, when we think of this, you also have to think about the totality of Nick, right? Because Nick wasn't the perfect husband.
Micah's not the perfect face of the Cowboys.
Nick was cheating. Nick was about to break up with her.
Micah is chatty on his podcast. He didn't include Dak as was it the top 5 quarterbacks or top quarterbacks that he would want to play with or something like that. He did mid-season last year.
I don't know. I still feel like I want to give Nick the Cowboys fans because they still riding on, they're...
Yeah, but I say this with love because there are Cowboy fans in my family.
Yeah.
But they are some of the most obnoxious, annoying. I don't like that fan base.
Yikes.
So I don't want to give them.
This is coming from an Eagles fan. Yikes.
We're the best.
Y'all are the most chaotic. Chaos.
So I don't want to give the fans the...
They got to grease poles in Philly when they make it.
Because we love hard.
I hear you.
But I see Nick as a sympathetic character, and so I'm always going to think about the player in that, and I don't like Cowboys fan bases, so Micah is Nick for me.
I have another comparison to Amy, and it's not Cowboys. It's Aaron Rodgers, especially what he's done in the past with all his media manipulation.
He is an Amy.
his mysterious calculated long game type of things, going on the what's that Pat McAfee show,
the will he won't he did with the Steelers all off season when you guys should have been drafting a quarterback early on.
The shit he did, sorry for cursing, the things he did in the off season was Amy hidden at her old joint crib while people were still looking for her. That's what that was. Or we can compare that to him and his little retreat, his darkness retreat.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So this was a great movie to focus on. Again, it's a thriller, but thrillers can also be horror. It doesn't necessarily always have to be gory or violent, although there were some violent scenes.
It was violent.
It was gory too. It was bloody. That was a very nasty murder that she did
she staged.
That she staged.
And then she killed the ex, didn't she?
She killed him.
Yeah.
She murked him. So it's
he wanted too much.
Yeah, he was a little crazy, But I think, I don't know. But yeah, Gone Girl, I need to revisit it. I used to watch that movie a lot. It is a really great movie. Especially if you've never seen it and you're watching it for the first time, you'll be like, I know she didn't. Like, once you figure out that, like, he's not in the wrong and that
you just told the plot line.
If you ain't seen Gone Girl by that, shame on you. I don't, what is the word? Spoiler alert?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. All right.
So anyway, yeah, it's a great movie. I do not like Ben Affleck, but I can watch that movie once a week. You don't like
Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck does pretty well in those type of thriller movies, though, because what was the one Lake House or where he was married again and the woman was like cheating on him with... I gotta look up the title because he's in another movie similar to that, which he excelled in.
I don't know. I like Ben in Gone Girl and when he's just playing a Boston ruffian because that's literally what he is. And so I think that's when he's his best.
Deep Water was the movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
We've seen it together. You've seen it. All right.
I'll take your word on it.
Anywho.
So as you're watching these holdouts, hold-ins, and mystery injuries, i.e. Matt Stafford, play out, just harken back to Gone Girl and don't fall prey to the games and the manipulation. So now that we escaped the terror of Gone Girl, it is terror, but is it true terror?
The real nightmare is fantasy draft day,
where every decision can either lead to glory or straight to the waiver wire crypt.
Make sure your laptops are charged or iPads, whatever device you're using, and your draft board is ready. Because
we're entering the realm of cursed picks, risky sleepers, and players whose value could vanish, just like your playoff hopes.
Welcome to Fantasy Nightmares, where your biggest scares aren't in the red zone, they're on your bench. All right, so this year is the 30th anniversary of ESPN's Fantasy Football. So currently there's a marathon of all fantasy talk on all ESPN channels, whether it's on TV or the radios. And again, they're just doing a live draft.
We're literally watching the live draft as we record this episode.
That's how prepared we're trying to go into this year's fantasy season. So if you want to, I'm going to give you some keys and tips on running a successful fantasy team as well as a fantasy manager.
So before you start, I just want to talk a little bit about, we saw, I guess, maybe more than half of the first round of the ESPN fantasy draft.
Yes.
So number one off the board was Jamar Chase, which I think is going to be pretty much 85 to 90% of people's first round picks. Or for the person that has the first pick of the draft.
Yes.
And then second off the board on ESPN was Bijan Robinson.
Yes.
So do you think is the better strategy or your preferred strategy? Are you going wide receiver first and wide receiver heavy? or are you trying to get the big running backs off the board first?
Well, in my opinion, it really depends on where you're placed to draft. If I have the number one pick, I would probably go Chase as well. Actually, I don't know because I had Chase last year, and I really don't like to repeat who I get from the previous year. I've been burned a few times in the past, and especially he just got paid this year, and I feel as though a lot of times when players get the contract versus when they're working to get the contract, those years tend to change. But I think they're in a pretty consistent offense. So Chase, unless injured, knock on wood, will have a successful year. I don't think he'll probably replicate last year, but I think he'll still be a top 5 wide receiver finish. So you can't really go wrong with Chase. But yeah, I think I would go wide receiver, like depending on who's available first round, unless like at the value there isn't a good wide receiver that I can truly feel confident about going number one. I'd go running back, but wide receiver would be my first option.
So what round are you going to start picking your backs?
Again, it depends on placement in the draft. I feel like there's more leadway for wide receivers later in rounds than there are for running backs. There's a lot of cases this year where there are rookie running backs that are anticipated to be the starting role, but there's also that backup that was there previously, or maybe a veteran back that got brought in to kind of supplement that backfield, and you just never know the split on how the usage of those running backs will be. There's not a lot of teams that really rely on one primary back. So, like, you have the Falcons, although Bijan is the guy. Bijan is the guy. They still used Tyler Algier a lot last year. Same with the Lions with Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery. So, when you really think about it, it's not a lot of teams that are utilizing that back to do a lot of the responsibilities. You have teams like what the Raiders plan to do with Ashton Genty. Saquon is another example, although they brought in A.J. Dillon from the Packers, that may take some of that load off him just so that he's healthy throughout the year. Trying to think of some other backs. Bucky Irving on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a versatile back that will run the ball and catch the ball. So you got to think about these things when you're playing in a league, especially if it's a PPR league, which is a point per reception league. If you're playing in an individual defensive, IDR? IDL, individual defensive player leagues, you got to think about Travis Hunter might be a good piece because he'll be playing offense and defense, so you're getting a 2-for-1 with Travis Hunter. So it really depends on the league that you're playing in and how the league is set up. But when I plan on going running backs, depends. So let's, for an example, just to throw it out here while we're talking, if I had the number 10th in a 10-man league,
and it's a snake draft.
So which means I'll go last in the first round and first in the second round. I would probably try to aim for a running back, wide receiver, back to back. Unless...
So you pick the running back first and then your wide receiver second?
I mean, in that instance, I guess it wouldn't matter because I'll have back to back, but it would have to be like something very spectacular for me to go wide receiver, or running back, just because I just don't know. Because it's going to be 18 picks until I go again, so that's a lot of people leaving the board. So you gotta be if you go last, you gotta be confident in your picks because you got a long wait time. Same when you're going first, but at least when you go first, you know you're getting something on at the top of the line.
So a lot of people last year picked Christian first.
Yeah.
And we all know what happened.
A lot of people got burned.
Yeah. He's back. He's healthy. He's in practice, getting reps in. Would you pick, or would you suggest someone pick Christian in the first round? Do you think he's going to go in the first round?
He's definitely going to go in the first round. If I got that 10th pick and he drops to 10th, I'm going to pick him 10th because he has more upside than he does downside. So I feel confident going with that pick. because I know he'll get the workload. They still have a pretty solid offensive line. Their wide receiver room took a hit, but I think that just gives more opportunity for McCaffrey to get catches and be used in that way like they've been using him in the past.
Gotcha. So when should you draft a quarterback?
Well, that depends. Like, I feel like everything it depends, right? So one thing that normally happens in these type of drafts is that someone will reach and get a quarterback too early, and then that dictates when other people start getting a quarterback.
I hate that.
Which I hate as well. So me personally, I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that will slip for a few rounds. I've done a few mock drafts myself, so I know that at least with the computer, my people in my leagues aren't as smart as and won't pick the best available like some of these computer AIs will in these mock drafts. But I've been able to get good quarterbacks like round 8, 9, sometime even later. So unless you want like Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you're going to have to go round 3 or so for them because they're going to go early because people feel as though, at least for Lamar and Josh and Jalen Hurts and Jaden,
I'm saying Jaden,
because of their abilities to run the ball, they might go a little faster. But me personally, my thought regarding that in the running quarterback, the more they run, the more chances they put at risking injury. So I try to stay away from those outside of Lamar. If I can get Lamar and Josh, because Josh is a bigger quarterback, so he can take some of those hits. Jaden, he's battled a lot of injuries in college, so I was hesitant on him last year, and I know I talked you out of getting him, and so I won't discuss. I'll let you do your thing this year with your fantasy drafts, but you'll see quarterbacks going as early as 2. Like whoever will have
that's wild.
Whoever may have the last pick in round 2 may go Lamar Jackson or Josh, because you got to think if it's a 12-man league, those numbers go quick, and that might be the best person available at the time. And again, if you go on the last pick of the second round, you're going to be waiting a while.
That's fair.
Yeah. So.
All right, so just to tie it back into what we've been talking about earlier today, with suspensions, injuries, potential holdouts and hold-ins, how do you let that play into, or how do you calculate that in your drafting of players when you have Matt Stafford, who was very productive last year, but we don't know about his injuries, so that's going to impact more than just drafting him, or the guys that are suspended for a few weeks?
Well, now that I think about it, and Matt Stafford being up there in age, I think Matt Stafford, there's nothing wrong with him. I think he just doesn't want to play in preseason and camp, which I'm not mad at. Or it is he's nursing an injury, and because they know what he can do, they're not risking it. So if he is playing, I'm definitely picking Puka, because we can see the rapport that him and Puka have. Obviously, Devontae Adams is going to start taking away or start demanding some of those targets that
demand some or all the targets.
Some. I think he knows the team is Puka's. I don't think Devontae can really put up those numbers he has previously, and I don't think Matt Stafford is going to negotiate with a terrorist. So Matt Stafford is a vet, and he's played longer than Devontae, and he knows what works with Puka and has that rapport. So I think it'll be Devontae fitting into their system. He chose to go there, so I think they'll be fine. I think they'll both.
Well, sorry to distract, but your boy also was trying to get over there too, and they were trying to be there together.
Who's that?
Aaron.
Oh yeah, McVay not having that shit. McVay is an offensive genius, an offensive mastermind. He's not going to let a narcissist like Aaron Rodgers manipulate and try to take over that offense. So Matt Stafford is one of those quarterbacks that's going round 10. So if you feel like you're okay with selecting Matt Stafford, knowing he's going to throw the ball to Puka, Devontae, I think Tyler Higbee still there. That's a way to get a quarterback without reaching early in the rounds. some of the other injuries, again, like I mentioned earlier, with Landon going down, that shifts up that offensive line for the Eagles, which one can impact the running game and two impact the amount of time that Jalen Hurts has a clean pocket to throw the ball. So you just want to monitor his injury and availability to determine how invested you want to go into the year drafting someone from the Eagles with their line at risk. Any other players you said suspension as well. So again, Rashee Rice, it's hard to kind of understand how they're going to utilize him this year. I know last year, well, outside of the suspension, he got hurt last year. He tore his ACL, so that he's come off an ACL year. So me personally, as someone that has come off an ACL injury multiple times, you don't play the same that first year back. You're still in your head about certain movements. Things just don't feel natural.
So that means don't draft Chris Godwin?
I would hesitate on Chris Godwin as well. It's a tough injury. Achilles, if anyone has a return from Achilles, we see how slow and, not confident Aaron Rodgers seemed last year. Kirk Cousins. Those are tough injuries because when you have those injuries, you have to learn how to walk normal again. And then you got to learn how to run, and then you got to learn how to do all these athletic movements that require changing direction, shifting weight. So it's going to take them some time. And I know that they're pros and they have the best athletic trainers and strength rooms, all that jazz. But it's still a battle with the mental. You know what I mean? Because damn, if I do this one move, I could possibly re-injure myself. So I'm a little hesitant, and the history has shown that, more so than not, they don't really return to themselves right away. I can give you some examples. Only Adrian Peterson has had a successful or even maybe a better year coming off an ACL injury. Cooper Kupp had an ACL injury a few years back. He didn't have a great year on his return. Saquon tore his ACL. He was a little slow coming back. Kyler Murray. The list goes on. So my advice is, if you're looking to draft someone that just came off a major injury like ACL, Achilles, try to avoid him if possible. But if you feel like that's the only available option, go for it. But again, don't put too much stock in that investment. Well, that's our playbook for week 1 preseason madness in episode 2. And this episode again contained holdouts, hauntings, and fantasy fiascos all wrapped up.
Just remember, whether it's on the field or on the screen, sometimes the scariest moves happen when someone simply doesn't show up.
Thanks for joining us on this twisted ride through the gridiron and the graveyard. If you enjoyed our weird little mashup, make sure to like, subscribe, share, retweet, whatever social media you have. Just make sure you're trying to help us out with getting us some exposure, because nothing scares us more than hearing crickets instead of feedback.
Follow us on socials for more gridiron gore and horror galore. We promise to keep the jump scares coming and maybe some touchdowns if we're lucky.
Until next time, keep your helmets tight, your snacks ready, and your fantasy team ghost free.
Good night, and don't let the waiver wire bite.